Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing on with Codominance by CurlyStar09, and today we are recording chapters 9 and 10. The doorbell was ringing excessively for it being 6 in the morning, causing Riot to bark up a storm. Akio started crying due to all the noise as Bakugou cursed under his breath as he got out of bed to get him. Who the fuck pulled this kind of bullshit so early in the morning? He was going to kill the bastard that had the nerve to do this and make his kid cry. Akio was holding on to him tightly as he made his way out of the room, almost running headfirst into Kirishima, who was making his way to the door.
"Were we expecting anyone?"
Kirishima asked with a yawn, while his hand reached to soothe Akio.
"No, but they better have a good fucking reason,"
Bakugou grumbled just before the doorbell rang once more. "I'll put Riot in my room," Kirishima told them, but they could still hear the muffled barking.
"But who the hell keeps ringing the doorbell?"
Bakugou frowned. Kirishima let out a sigh before heading to open the door, Bakugou at his heels, grumbling under his breath. Akio had calmed down a bit, just letting out a couple of sniffles as he buried his face into Bakugou's shoulder. Kirishima opened the front door, finding a middle-aged woman in a black pantsuit. Her face seemed to turn into a frown as she laid her eyes on them. Suddenly, Kirishima was hyper-aware of their appearance. His hair was a mess, and he was wearing nothing other than a pair of old sweatpants. Bakugou was wearing an old t-shirt that had holes all over and a pair of shorts. The most acceptable of the three of them was Akio, who was wearing his dinosaur print footy pajamas and was sniffing and close to bursting into tears once more. "Can I help you?" Kirishima asked, shifting nervously between feet. "My name is Sato Megumi. I work for the Hero Commission. I need to have a word with both of you," she said, raising an eyebrow as if waiting to be invited inside. Kirishima blinked twice before moving away from the doorway. Come on in?" Sato didn't waste any time stepping into their home, walking past them, and looking around with a judgeful look in her eyes.
"Took longer than I expected for one of you to show up,"
Bakugou mumbled, but Kirishima noticed the way his grip on Akio tightened slightly. "We wanted to make sure the initial media storm passed in order to evaluate any form of action," she answered as she turned to look at them head on. "Imagine our surprise when we found out you two were dating all along." The emphasis on the word was venomous.
"So what?"
Bakugou answered with a frown. "Well, if we had known the two of you were dating sooner, the whole situation would have been treated a bit differently if we had been informed." She looked at them in a way that made Kirishima unsure if that would have been a good thing or not. "Unless you two have been lying." Kirishima and Bakugou had known each other for years, to the point that they could almost read each other's thoughts, survey a situation, and end up with the same plan of action. That's what made them a force to be reckoned with when it came to their work as heroes, and just about anything they did together. The same understatement passed through them as Sato tried to stare them down, and they both knew exactly what they needed to do. Kirishima stepped forward, a hand going to the small of Bakugou's back, and the blonde leaned against him. "We've been dating for years," Kirishima told her, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Wanted to keep it private, but since we have a kid now, we decided to finally go public." "The fact that you agreed with the HC that it would remain a secret meant nothing to you?" Her eyes narrowed at them.
"It would have been harder to hide once we returned to work and needed a daycare. He can't live inside his whole life."
Bakugou shot back.
"He wouldn't have been able to have a life if we hid him from the world."
"You two never discussed your relationship with the HC," Sato mused, as she looked around the house, her eyes looking for things that would tear their story apart. Bakugou knew she had nothing. He had pictures of him and his friends hanging on the walls, most of them with Kirishima. Came with best friend territory, after all.
There's no rule that says relationships have to be disclosed,
Bakugou told her without missing a beat. That's true, but it's still considered polite to do so, she told him with a bit of a disapproving sigh. Guess that thing was a blessing in disguise, or something for the two of you then.
What?
Kirishima barked. I'm just saying, it must have been something you two may have. His name is Akio. He is a human, a child. Kirishima punctuated every word with a step closer to Sato. His eyes never left her face as the anger started boiling over. You will not refer to him like that. Bakugou's tone was full of warning. No, Katsuki, I am not going to. Bakugou moved first, standing a few inches in front of Kirishima with Akio in his arms.
Don't get ahead of yourself. We need to know what's going on first,
Bakugou whispered, his eyes falling on Akio, who was reaching for Kirishima. Kirishima took a breath, taking Akio in his arms, before mumbling, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I want to kill her too,
Bakugou whispered, his jaw tight, and Kirishima could feel the heat coming from Bakugou's hand. It had been a good idea to take Akio. Well then, Sato said in a bored tone, as if she didn't see what was going on in front of her, or the danger she was in with two angry pros in the same room with her. Now, back to business. The reason I'm actually here. You two are having an interview tonight.
No, we are fucking not,
Bakugou glared. His hands being free made it hard for him to resist the urge to let off a couple explosions right there and then. You act like you have a choice, she said with a humorless chuckle. You two broke the rule, but we will overlook that if you play along and make sure no one questions the sudden appearance of that child. She gave them a plastic smile with the word. Make it believable, or... Her eyes fell onto Akio, and something flashed across her face for a second that made both Kirishima and Bakugou shiver, both shifting just slightly into more defensive positions. Your publicists will have the information. She smiled once more before walking towards the door as if it was her own home. Just like that? Kirishima asked as he and Bakugou followed behind her cautiously. Just like that, Sato told them. Oh, and we'll provide childcare during the interview, she added with fake cheerfulness, standing right in front of the door.
No, thank you. We will make our own babysitting arrangements,
Bakugou told her, reaching over her and opening the door. Good luck tonight, then, she told them with another fake smile before walking out. Everyone is waiting to see the new happy family. Bakugou slammed the door, turning to Kirishima as he ran a hand through his hair. Fuck, he whispered. The hero commission was pissed at them. What are we going to do? Kirishima asked, wide-eyed. Bakugou looked at his best friend and then their kid.
We need to play along, eh? It's our only option right now.
Kirishima frowned, but nodded. Who should we ask to watch Akio tonight? We can't take him to the interview.
It has to be someone that can protect him in case the Hero Commission tries something,
Bakugou notes, as his mind starts forming a list of people they could ask, but he kept coming back to one person. So our parents are out, Kirishima said, following Bakugou's train of thought. There is one person we could ask.
I'll call our publicists. You call him,
Bakugou said, both knowing the only person they could trust with their child. Time passes. Kirishima fidgeted nervously. He had Akio's diaper bag over one shoulder as Bakugou held the baby. They were dropping Akio off earlier than they wanted, but they had to arrive at the interview an hour early for hair and makeup for some unknown reason. Akio was babbling to himself, pointing at potted plants near the door, as Kirishima knocked on the door with a sigh. He knew Akio would be safe here, but he couldn't help but worry.
We'll pick him up as soon as we can,
Bakugou assured him, as if reading his thoughts. How are we going to get through the interview? Kirishima groaned.
Just add details to the truth like we talked.
Bakugou shrugged, but his eyes were on the floor. A lot was riding on the interview, and little to no room for mistake. Suddenly the door swung open, and they were greeted with a bright smile, long white hair, and bright red eyes. "Hi!" Eri exclaimed. "Long time no see! I'm so glad you guys are here!" She ran forward, hugging Kirishima before turning towards Bakugou and giving him a fist bump. Eri had grown so much, and even though she was now 16 and one of the top students at UA, she would always be the honorary little sister to all of their class. "Hi, Eri," Kirishima smiled.
"Hey, twerp."
Bakugou grinned. "Is this Akio?" Eri gasped before her face grew into an even wider smile. "He is so cute. OMG, come in." She ushered them through the door. "Dad is here. He's just finishing some grading." They made their way to the living room where Eri's schoolwork was spread out all over the coffee table. "Sorry for the mess. I'm studying for an English test. Papa doesn't even cut me any slack."
"Good luck,"
Bakugou scoffed. "Present Mike isn't home?" Kirishima asked politely.
"He's out doing some grocery shopping,"
Aizawa said as he walked into the room, hands in pockets. It was still weird seeing their former teacher in casual clothing, even years later.
"Is that the kid?"
he added with a raised eyebrow and a hint of a smile on his lips.
"Yeah," Bakugou mumbled. "His name is Akio."
Bakugou told him. They had told Aizawa the whole situation from day one, at least as much as they were allowed to tell at the time. Everything else he needed to know they had told him that very day through the phone as they asked Eraserhead of all people to babysit. The legendary pro agreed without hesitation. "Let me know when he's old enough to get into UA. That way I know when it's time for me to retire," Aizawa told them as he looked at Akio carefully, as if trying to decide if he was real or not. "Thank you for looking after him for us," Kirishima said with a small chuckle, while Bakugou let out a huff. "HC has gone too far so many times. We all know that. The whole system reformed themselves a bit after, but they still stick to some of the old ways," Aizawa sighs, but reaches out for Akio, who looked at him with a bit of suspicion.
"Do you know anything about that woman who came by our place?"
Bakugou asked.
"Getting some intel from my sources. I'll let you know,"
Aizawa told him with a shrug. "Thanks for everything. Really," Kirishima said once more, unable to find the words to show how much he really meant it.
"He isn't another problem child, is he?"
Aizawa asked with a raised eyebrow at Akio. Kirishima chuckled while Bakugou rolled his eyes, trying to fight a smile. "He is so cute, though," Eri told them as she waved to Akio with a smile. "Did you guys really rescue him? Were there lots of villains?" Kirishima felt himself tense, suddenly realized how similar Akio and Eri's rescues were. The big difference was that they knew Eri was there, knew that she needed saving. Akio, on the other hand, no one had even known he even existed. No one knew he needed them until they found him by sheer luck. On the upside, at least he hadn't been trapped there for years as Eri had been with Overhaul.
"Yeah, kick some villain ass,"
Bakugou answered, pulling Kirishima away from his thoughts.
"Tell you more about it later."
Eri grinned before turning to Akio. "We are going to have fun together today."
"Interview is going to be live?"
Aizawa started, changing the subject as Eri took Akio with a delighted gasp. "Yeah, they have us appearing on Hero Talk, an exclusive interview," Kirishima said as he scratched the back of his neck while Bakugou rolled his eyes.
"You've never been good at those." Aizawa stated as he looked at Bakugo. I know, but I don't have a fucking choice, do I?
Bakugo grumbled. I'm sure you'll be fine, Eri encouraged as she sat on the sofa playing with the baby. You probably don't remember the first interview he did, Kirishima chuckled, earning himself a shove from Bakugo.
They didn't even show any of his answers,
Aizawa finished for the redhead,
and the interviews after that weren't much better.
Bakugo groaned in annoyance.
Can we get going? The sooner we leave, the sooner we can come back and pick up the gremlin.
Kirishima let out one more chuckle before clearing his throat. Thanks for doing this, Aizawa-sensei. He handed over the diaper bag. There are some toys in there as well as some prepared bottles.
Just don't make this a habit,
Aizawa said with a sigh, already knowing that it probably would be. Kirishima leaned down to kiss Akio's cheek. Goodbye, little pebble. We'll be right back.
Pipsqueak, I trust you to keep him safe,
Bakugo told Eri before placing a kiss on the top of Akio's head. Got it, booger, Eri responded with a smile.
We'll be watching, Aizawa told them. Good luck.
Time passes. Akio cried when he saw that they were leaving without him, panic in his eyes as his dads left him behind with people he didn't know. It broke Kirishima's heart, but they couldn't bring him along. They just couldn't risk making the Hero Commission any angrier than they already were by skipping the interview. Bakugo hesitated once the door was closed behind them, but they could still hear Akio's crying.
Fuck, why is this so hard?
Bakugo asked as he started walking. We'll be right back. He's safer here than anywhere else, Kirishima reassured them both, a hand on Bakugo's shoulder as they made their way to Bakugo's car.
This shit better be fast,
Bakugo mumbled. Once inside the car, they both let out a sigh at the same time, making both of them laugh softly. What are we even gonna say? Kirishima asked.
Make the world believe that we're together. That's the fucking mission, right?
Bakugo told him, his heart aching at the fact that it was nothing more than a show for the public. Yeah, Kirishima started, but trailed off for a bit. They asked for pictures of Akio for the interview.
I know, my publicist asked me to send them to her.
Bakugo rolled his eyes. They want us to go public. Make him public, and it feels like they're setting us up for something, Cats, Kirishima said, his voice sounding more nervous than he'd intended.
Whatever they're planning, we can handle it, eh?
Bakugo assured him as he turned the key in the ignition.
Let's just get this over with.
Kirishima nodded, wishing he could just reach out and grab Bakugo's hand. He pushed the temptation down, trying to focus on the upcoming challenge instead. They had to convince the whole world that they were together. Chapter 10. The Interview. Getting ready for an interview was always the most annoying part of the whole process. Bakugo hated how it always seemed to be more important for everyone involved that pro heroes look attractive. It always drew attention away from whatever they needed to discuss or even share with the public. It was all a fucking circus and served no purpose other than entertaining people who wanted to judge them on everything but their hero work. Yet, he had no choice but to sit in the dressing room while an extra applied makeup to him. Kirishima was sitting nearby on a couch, already ready for the interview, nervously fidgeting with the buttons of his red shirt they had dressed him in. It looked nice with the black trousers they had paired it with. The way they had tied the top part of his hair back in a half ponytail made it hard for Bakugo not to stare. They had dressed him in a similar outfit, but with an orange shirt instead. Bakugo had been trying not to think too much about how they actually looked like a couple in the outfits.
That's enough already,
Bakugo told the extra who had been trying to powder his nose yet again. The girl looked at him wide-eyed, apologizing and making her way out of the room, and they were suddenly alone once more.
It's gonna be all right, Red,
Bakugo said as soon as the silence had started to settle around them. I'm just worried about Akio, Kirishima admitted. Should we call? Make sure he's doing all right? Bakugo let out a sigh, getting out of the makeup chair and heading to sit next to his pretend boyfriend? Husband? They weren't really sure which label they were going to use yet.
I'm sure he's doing fine, Bakugou assured him. Now we are going to fucking kick this stupid ass interview out of the fucking way so we can go pick up our kid and spend the rest of the night alone at home with him. We can order some fried chicken for dinner and watch one of those lame ass movies you like.
Kirishima smiled. All right, but you are the one that likes watching All Might movies, so I don't know why you think your movies aren't lame.
Bakugou shoved Kirishima playfully. You're feeling better, aren't you?
Maybe if we make a couple more jokes about All Might movies, Kirishima said with a wistful sigh, but he couldn't hide the grin that was on his face.
You fucker,
Bakugou told him with a more forceful shove this time, but he was glad that Kirishima was joking once more. Before they could say anything else, they heard a knock on the door before the stage manager poked her head in. "We're ready for you," she told them with a bright smile. Kirishima let out a nervous breath, and Bakugou couldn't stop himself from reaching over and placing his hand on top of his best friend's own, intertwining their fingers.
"Let's go, Red,"
Bakugou told him, standing up and pulling their joined hands for Kirishima to follow. Something flashed through Kirishima's eyes, but it was too fast for Bakugou to pinpoint what it was exactly. Kirishima smiled up at him before standing up, towering over the blonde before squeezing his hand. "Let's go," Kirishima replied with an easy smile. "Can I just say, you two make such a cute couple," the stage manager told them with a smile and a small bounce in place as she was overexcited about them being together. She turned around right after and started leading them through the backstage area. Bakugou tried to keep his focus on anything other than the fact that Kirishima was still holding his hand as they made their way to the side of the stage where they would enter for the interview. His heartbeat was loud against his ears as he tried to remind himself that they needed to focus. They were here to convince everyone that they were together, not reveal how bad he had it for his best friend. Once they arrived by the curtain, Kirishima didn't let go of his hand, and Bakugou would be damned if he was the one to let go first, so they waited, hand in hand, until the host introduced them. Time passes. "Good evening. We are back with more hero talk." The host, a former hero who had retired early to follow a career in the media, started with a bright smile. She had been known as the butterfly hero Insecta, but now she was just using her hero name as a stage name. Her butterfly wings spread around her as she stood to introduce them. "We have a very special exclusive interview tonight with two of Japan's top heroes. They have been breaking the internet the last couple of days when they revealed that not only are they dating one another, but they had a child together." The crowd cheered and clapped as Insecta raised a hand to quiet them down. "Help me welcome number 2 hero Dynamite and number 6 hero Red Riot, Riot." The audience cheered and clapped even louder than before as Bakugou and Kirishima walked onto the stage hand in hand. Insecta covered her mouth with her hand as if she were overjoyed before greeting the two pro heroes and gesturing for them to sit as she did. "Welcome! Thank you for coming." "Thank you for having us," Kirishima told her with a smile. Bakugou just grumbled slightly as he sat next to his best friend, but he hadn't gone off on a string of curses, so it was an improvement from the last interview he had been on. That had to earn him some points in his favor. "Now, let's get right into the questions everyone has been wanting an answer to," Insecta started. "How long have you two been keeping this a secret?" She gestured at them and their joined hands. Kirishima turned slightly to look at Bakugou before he started talking. "It's been some time now." "Oh, come on, you two can be more specific than that. Give us some details," Insecta told him as the crowd cheered for details.
"We started dating 6 years ago," Bakugou said, loud enough that the audience grew quiet at once. "Kept it quiet because we didn't want shit like this to happen," he mumbled.
"Pro heroes really don't get any privacy, do they?" Insecta interjected. "Can we ask who asked out who? Who made the first move?
Me.
Bakugou and Kirishima said at the same time, making the audience laugh. Oh, that's adorable. You both confessed at the same time?
Something like that.
Bakugou mumbled. Kirishima scratched the back of his neck. It's complicated. Well, how did you guys realize that you liked each other? Insecta demanded, while the crowd agreed with her enthusiasm. Kirishima could feel himself shifting nervously as he tried to think of something, anything that he could use instead of the truth. It was so nerve-wracking with so many people looking at him. They should have come up with something in case they were asked about this type of thing. We had been friends for so long, and one day it just clicked for me, Kirishima said finally with a slight blush, going for a simple answer. Oh, that's so adorable, Insecta told him, a hand to her chest. What about you, Dynamite? What made you realize you liked Red Riot as more than a friend? Bakugou was quiet for a moment. He wanted to tell the stupid host to fuck off and leave him alone, but he couldn't do that. Not when Akio was in the middle of this whole fucked up situation. He tried to think of something, anything, but he decided to stay close to the truth.
He got hurt. Really bad. During a mission.
He said slowly, the crowd growing quiet as the words sank in.
I rushed over to the hospital as soon as I heard, and I guess I realized I couldn't live without him.
Bakugou felt Kirishima's hand tighten around his own, and he realized they had never let go. He blushed slightly at the realization, but then he squeezed back, hoping Kirishima couldn't see how much he meant those words. Oh, that must have been such a realization, Insecta told him as she switched the cards that she was holding in her hands. Can you two share a bit about your first date? What did you two do? Kirishima hesitated for a second, turning to look at Bakugou from the corner of his eye, before the words just started flowing out of him. Well, we went hiking. Cats loves to hike, so we went for a hike together. We had done it many times before. We actually started hiking together back when we were in UA together. It was one of the first things we did, just the two of us. So it was what he always hoped could be their first date if he had ever had the courage to confess. But if by some miracle Bakugou had felt the same, so he may as well say it.
Perfect.
Bakugou finished when Kirishima hesitated. The blonde's eyes were on Kirishima as he tried to figure out what to make of his best friend's answer. And you two finish each other's sentences? Isn't that just adorable? Insecta said as the audience clapped in agreement. Kirishima felt himself blush but couldn't help the small smile that pulled at his lips. Maybe that could have been their life, if he could just bring himself to say something. Now, you've been together for 6 years and you decided to have a baby? Insecta asked with a bright smile. A picture of Akio appeared on the screens around the set. It was one of Bakugou's favorites. Akio had his hair spiked up like Kirishima used to do in high school. Well, as best as Kirishima had been able to replicate without using any actual hair product a couple days ago. Akio smiled brightly as he reached out for the person behind the camera, which had been Bakugou, who had been laughing the whole time Kirishima was trying to explain the strategy behind his once signature hairstyle. Maybe he shouldn't have sent it in with the rest of the pictures he had sent to his publicist. It felt a bit wrong to share part of that moment with a bunch of shitty extras. The audience awed and exclaimed at the image, and Bakugou couldn't help but feel proud at the fact that they could all see just how awesome their kid was. He is adorable. Congratulations, Insecta told them. Thank you, Kirishima told her while Bakugou just grumbled in acknowledgement. Does the precious angel have a name?
Kirishima Akio,
Bakugou said before Kirishima could answer. Oh, that's a perfect name, Insecta exclaimed as the crowd clapped. But if I may ask, why Kirishima? I mean, wouldn't you like for him to share his last name with the number 2 hero? Kirishima felt himself freeze. Of course, that's how everyone else would see it. Why should Akio have his name? Bakugou was the second highest ranking hero in Japan, and of course, Akio should share his last name with him. It made more sense. So why had Bakugou decided that Akio was a Kirishima? Was it so that he could distance himself in case something happened? Maybe that was part of the reason Bakugou had picked it without even asking Kirishima about it.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Bakugou practically snarled.
Are you saying that my son doesn't deserve to have the last name of the man that I admire the most? Is that the stupid shit you are trying to fucking tell us right now?
I meant no disrespect.
Didn't you?
Don't you know who this man is? Bakugou exclaimed, standing up to tower over the host, who was still sitting and sinking into her seat.
Not only is he one of the top heroes in Japan, he is one of the bravest heroes out there. The things I've seen him do are more than enough to prove that he's a worthy hero. One of the best, actually. And I would be fucking lucky if I could have the same last name as him.
The place was quiet. Insecta sat in her chair, wide-eyed, as if scared that she would get an explosion to the face. Meanwhile, Kirishima was staring at Bakugou with eyes just as wide, a couple of tears in his eyes before he pulled their joined hands, making Bakugou's attention go to him. Hey, cats, look at me. Kirishima started, a small smile on his face as the blonde did as he was told. Red eyes meeting red eyes. It's all right, sit down, Kirishima told him, his thumb rubbing at Bakugou's hand in what he hoped was a calming matter. So, Bakugou turned to look at Kirishima, and his face softened just slightly before turning back to glare at the host. He let out a frustrated huff of air before sinking back down into his chair, mumbling about the stupid TV host and fucked up opinions. Kirishima couldn't help but smile at how adorable Bakugou looked, sitting in his chair with a hand under his chin and still refusing to let go of Kirishima's hand as he sulked about being told to sit down. So, Kirishima said nervously, any other questions? Time passes. The rest of the interview went without any more altercations, even though Bakugou hadn't said much other than to talk about Akio, or let out a couple of grumbles here and there when annoyed with a question. Kirishima didn't mind. That was the way most of their joint interviews usually went anyway, and after his best friend's outburst, Insecta didn't try to ask any questions that could ruffle any feathers. The interview only lasted 15 minutes, but it felt longer. They were finally thanked for taking their time for the interview as the crowd cheered. They walked off the stage hand in hand and didn't stop until they made it all the way back to their dressing room. Kirishima let his hand drop first with a sigh of relief as he turned to Bakugou. That went well, Kirishima said with a smile. Bakugou just grunted. No thanks to me. I think you did great, Cats, he told him, getting closer to Bakugou, itching to reach out for the blonde's hand once more, to pull him close and just wrap his arms around the blonde to comfort him. I thought it was very manly of you to stand up for me, even if it was just for the whole fake relationship thing. Kirishima chuckled, trying to hide how his heart ached at the thought. He took a couple of steps towards where his actual clothes were. They needed to change, and the faster they did so, the faster they could make their way back to pick up Akio. It wasn't because of that, Bakugou told him. I meant every word. That stupid extra crossed a fucking line with her dumbass comment and shit-ass questions. Bakugou didn't look at Kirishima, but started redressing, as if what he had just said hadn't made the redhead's face match his hair. Kirishima couldn't help the way he felt a slight hope rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. Bakugou was just being a great friend like he always was. He shouldn't be reading so much into it. Yet, there was a voice in the back of his mind saying, maybe it wasn't too far-fetched. Time passes. The drive over to Aizawa's was quiet for the most part. Bakugou was still slightly shaking from what he had done in the interview. He had admitted to wanting to share last names with Kirishima, and that was true. He had no other words for it, so he held onto the steering wheel tightly as they drove to pick up the gremlin. Eri opened the door for them with a wide smile. "Welcome back. You guys were great in the interview." "Thanks, Eri," Kirishima told her as he scratched the back of his neck while Bakugou mumbled something that sounded closer to whatever. Eri led them inside towards the living room where they found Aizawa and Yamada sitting on the sofa with Akio in their former homeroom teacher's arms wide awake. As soon as the kid laid eyes on his two dads walking in, he let out a happy cry and reached out for them in excitement. Kicking at Aizawa and squirming as if it would help him get away faster. "And there's the problem child in him," Aizawa told them with a tired sigh. "Hey, Pebble," Kirishima said with a bright smile and took Akio in his arms. "How was he? Any problems?"
"Other than the crying when you two left, he was actually very well behaved," Aizawa told them, "actually surprising knowing who his parents are. Well, one of them." "Ha ha, very funny," Bakugou told him without any humor as he leaned over to place a kiss on Akio's cheek.
"He got excited when he saw you on TV. The tiny listener was reaching out to the screen," Yamada told them with a grin. "It was really cute. I have a video if you guys want to see it," Eri added with excitement.
"Send it to me, Pipsqueak,"
Bakugou told her, and Eri replied with a salute as she pulled out her phone to do what she had been told to do, as she dropped onto the couch next to Aizawa. "So what did you guys think of the interview?" Kirishima asked as Akio started babbling, as if answering the question.
"You two were good," Aizawa told them. "Honestly, I think the Hero Commission may want to rope you two in for more stuff like this after the response the interview got online." "Wait, what?"
Bakugou broke in. They hadn't even looked at their phones for more than a couple seconds since the interview. They had been in such a rush to pick up Akio that had been their main concern. "You don't know?" Eri asked them. "The hashtags Kiribaku and Dynariot have been trending since the interview. Everyone is talking about you two. Again." Eri let out a slight giggle.
"Oh, fuck. That's great. At least we were convincing,"
Bakugou said with a tired sigh. "Language," Kirishima told him with a side glare.
"Oh, come on,"
Bakugou exclaimed. He could feel the annoyed pout on his face. Kirishima couldn't help but laugh as he shoved Bakugou playfully, handing over Akio to the blonde. Akio went happily, smiling at his dad. "Thank you so much for taking care of Akio. I think we should be heading out. We can see what's going on online when we get home." "Anytime," Yamada told them with a finger gun.
"Hisashi, don't give them ideas," Aizawa groaned.
"I can babysit. I'm old enough." Eri raised her hand as she extended the offer. She let her hands drop as all eyes turned to her. "What? I'm about the same age they were when you let them babysit me."
"You weren't a literal infant," Bakugou told her.
"If I survived with you as my babysitter, how hard can it be?" Eri shot back. "I can take care of Akio for a couple hours every now and then."
"Fair point, brat,"
Bakugou chuckled. "We'll let you know if we need a babysitter anytime soon," Kirishima told her as Aizawa helped him collect Akio's things. "Deal," Eri said with a grin. All right, friends, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I actually really love the interview chapter and, Bakugou's true feelings coming out and Kiri, hoping that they were true, but, not thinking that they were. I just love that moment between the two of them, or not really between the two of them, but, kind of between the two of them. But anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope that you'll come back for the next piece, which is going to be chapters 11 and 12. See you next time.